Hello there and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be going through a PixInsight workflow for the Dwarf 2. It's going to include a new feature in PixInsight, the gradient correction tool, and also one or two scripts that I haven't used before, which I've found pretty useful for processing these images, plus a few more advanced techniques for dealing with things like noise, which is quite a prevalent thing with a lot of Dwarf 2 images. Anyway, without any further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so first up, let's load up this file. It's the M16, the Eagle Nebula. It was captured by my friend Sam Turner over there in Brisbane, Australia. And let's just have a little closer look at it. As you can see, it's got a pretty common Dwarf 2 problem of having coma on some of the stars. Probably used a ZWO geoband filter, which just seems to make that worse. But so that's one problem we've got to try and address. It's got quite a nasty gradient. You can see the left-hand side of it's pretty red, and also it's just generally really pretty noisy. And all these things are pretty common over the Dwarf 2. So really, the point of this tutorial is to try and use all the tools at our disposal in PixInsight to try and mitigate a lot of these problems. I certainly think that PixInsight is the comprehensive tool for dealing with this kind of image. It's got everything you could really need to process astro images, but it's also got some really important features which are unique to it. So we're going to go through that now and look at some of the tools that are available and see how we use them. So first of all, we're going to have a look at this gradient. So I'm going to go into Process, All Processes, and then we're going to go into Gradient Correction. Now this is a brand new tool, absolutely fantastic, to my mind the best and simplest really. I've yet to really have to mess with the settings. I mean, obviously you could mess with the settings, but it just seems to get it right every time. So I'm just going to apply that. And there you are, perfect really. It's just evened everything out. It's got rid of all that red stuff. So that was step one, simple enough. Now the next thing we're going to do is to apply Blur Exterminator. And hopefully we're going to do a lot of fixing of this coma on the stars with Blur Exterminator. So let's just apply that. All Processes, Blur Exterminator. Now the default settings I think are probably a bit too strong for this, so I've got it on default at the moment, but I'm going to actually drop the Sharpen Stars down to about halfway along the slider. It's just over 0.3. Leave everything else the same, and then I'm going to apply that. And that's again done a nice job. Let's just have a quick zoom in and have a look at these stars. There you are. That's really helped to get rid of most of that coma and rounded up the stars quite nicely. So again, let's just resize the window so we can see the image at sort of full scale. Okay, so we'll move on. I'm going to accept that. I think that will be fine for what I want. So the next thing I'm going to do is to use the image solver now, just to plate solve this image so that I can then use the spectrophotometric color calibration. So we're going to go into Script, Image Analysis, Image Solver. Okay, so first thing we do is click Search. We type in the name of the target, which in this case is M16. We'll just pick the top one. Obviously we've got different options from different catalogues, but we'll take the top one. Click OK. Now we'll just check our settings here. So Dwarf 2 focal distance is supposed to be 100mm. It seems to have worked it out at 100.454, so I expect that's going to be correct. Pixel size is 1.45, which is correct considering it's yes, it's binned 1 by 1, so that is correct. If it was binned 2 by 2, you would put in a 2.9 here, and again it would still be 100, or in this case 100.454. So that's okay. We just click OK now. And that's done. So next up we're going to go to the spectrophotometric color calibration, which is here. Probably you shouldn't have to make any changes to this. It's all configured correctly for what we're trying to do. So just click the apply button. And that's complete. I'm not really going to go into the details of what these graphs are about, but that's probably a subject for a different video, really. I'm going to just close that window and close that window. Then I'm just going to reset the stretch. So click the reset button and stretch again. And as you can see, the color has now changed. It's gone from being sort of a mucky brown color to a more pink color, which is what we would expect. Okay, so next up we're going to go for Star Exterminator. I've got generate star image ticked, and I've got unscreen stars ticked. Click apply. Okay, I'm just going to put that over there for a minute. Now, as you can see, unfortunately, 1 or 2 stars haven't been removed very well. I think that's to do probably with some residual sort of underlying coma, which has meant that Star Exterminator has struggled to properly identify these as stars and just hasn't removed them. But anyway, we're going to have to try and work our way around that. Okay, so next up we're going to go for Noise Exterminator. So I think we'll just try the default settings and see how that comes out. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Okay, so next up I'm just going to change the identifier on this window to something a little bit more manageable. I'm going to call it BG for background. And the next thing I'm going to do is to stretch this permanently. So I need the histogram transformation window open. Just click on the header of the window. Just grab this little triangle on the bottom left hand corner of the screen transfer window and drag it to the footer of the histogram transformation window. And you'll see you get this little double arrowed icon appear when you're in the right place. Just let go. Then do the same thing with the little triangle on the histogram transformation window and drag it back onto the image. The whole thing goes white, which is correct, basically because we're double stretching it at the moment. So what we do is we reset the tool, probably reset the other one as well while we're at it. And that's now stretched, so we can just get rid of this. And the next thing I'm going to do is just do a little bit of an S-curve on it. So I'm going to open the curves transformation. Just open the real-time preview. And I'm just going to lift the top of the curve and drop the bottom of the curve, just a little gentle S-curve. And all I'm trying to do is create a little bit more contrast between the background and the nebula in the center. So we'll leave it at that. I'll apply that, reset. And the next step, we're going to create a luminance mask. So we just come up to this button up here, extract CIEL component, click on that, and that will create a monochrome luminance copy of the main image there. As you can see, BG_L. What we're then going to do is we want to do a little bit of work on this. So I want to give it, again, I want to give it more contrast really. So I'm going to take the histogram transformation window this time. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the BGL file, which is the one we're working on. And I'm going to just start pushing the black point down a bit. And I'm actually, yes, I think I might go a little bit beyond actually, just a bit beyond where you would normally go. So I'm just clipping into the black slightly there. But what we're creating here is actually a mask, so it doesn't matter so much. I think we'll go probably about there actually, just beyond the clip point. We apply that, reset. Okay, so what we've now done is we've created a quite contrasty monochrome luminance image of the main background image here. And I'm now going to drag that across and drop it just below the identifier on the main window. And what I've now done is applied it as a mask. Okay, now I'm going to just click on here and I'm going to go to mask and invert mask. Now, what we're actually looking at here is that effectively anything that's red will be protected from anything I do to this window. So if I make it brighter or darker, saturate colors or whatever, anything that's red will not be affected. And really, the brighter the red, the more protected the area will be. So in other words, the core of M16 won't be altered while the mask is applied in this way. If we then went and inverted it again, now what we've done is we've made it that the background is protected, but that the center part, particularly the core, and also other areas, you can see sort of slightly darker areas. All of these areas can be adjusted now by using curves or histogram transformation, for example. Anyway, I'm just going to invert it back a minute because I want to protect the core. Now, if I open the curves transformation window again, click the real-time preview. Now, the real-time preview doesn't show the mask, but the mask nevertheless is still there. So just to demonstrate, if I were to, I've got an RGBK curve on at the moment. So if I drop this slightly, you'll see that I'm starting to affect the background, but I'm not affecting the nebula itself so much. So that's one way that we can manipulate it, although that's probably a little bit crude. There are better ways we can do it. So we could protect the highlights. So basically the way this works is that the left-hand side of it is the shadows of the image, and the right-hand side of it is the highlights, and you get everything between shadows and highlights going from left to right. So halfway across is your kind of mid-tones. So what we can do is we can put anchor points on the curve here, and what that will effectively do is kind of immobilize the curve. So what I've effectively done is anchored everything from the midpoint up to the highest of the highlights, which means I can just really work on stuff below the midpoint. So the medium shadows to the darker shadows. So as you can see, I'm really not affecting now the nebula very much at all, because I've sort of double protected it by using anchors on the curve and by using the mask. So I could kind of do that sort of thing. I think I will. In fact, I'm going to apply that. Now we can be more specific. So you might say, oh, well, we've got some green in here, and there is quite a lot of green noise, residual noise left over. Well, there shouldn't really be any green there. So what we can do is switch to the green curve. Again, I'm going to anchor it because I don't really want to take green. Green is quite important. Obviously, green is one of the primary colours in light. So I don't want to take the green out altogether. I just want to take it out of the shadows. So I've anchored the highlights, and same thing, I'm going to just drop down a little bit on the shadows. And you'll see as I do it that because I'm taking the green out, it's now turning more pink, which is probably what we want. So I'm going to go around about there and apply that, and then reset it. Now you could do this with each color curve. So for example, you might think, oh, I want a bit more blue, so you could do that. I actually don't, but you can do all sorts of stuff with curves now, and you're not really affecting the core very much, which is the good thing. Anyway, I'm going to reset that because I didn't really want to do that. So next thing I'm going to do now is to invert the mask. So now I'm protecting the background, and I'm going to start working on the core of the nebula. Actually, to make it a little bit easier to see, I'm going to create a preview window. So I'll just click this little icon here, new preview mode. I'm going to draw a little box. That's what I want. So now in the real-time preview window, I can click this drop down and I can find that preview I've just created. And now I can, as you can see, I can sort of see the core nice and close up. So we've got to decide what we want to do with this. Now another cool little feature actually of this curves transformation window is that if I click on an area, left click on an area in this preview window, you can see actually, if I select RGBK, you'll see it better. You're going to see where that particular point I've clicked on, you can see the distribution of the blue, green and red channels for that particular point. Now this is useful because it shows us within this within the range from left to right, it shows us where if we want to work on this area, we know we've got to be working up on the right hand side of the curve. So for example, I think I might like to add a little bit of blue to that, but I don't want to add it to the shadows. So I'm going to just anchor the bottom half of the blue curve now, and I'm just going to sort of experiment really. I mean, there's no real rules to this. You can kind of do what you want with it really. You just need to experiment, but you can create multiple points to start making very specific shapes, so that you can you can see there that I'm just really working now on the middle of the core. You see, and I can really be very precise about where I want to change colors. It's a little bit like a generalized hyperbolic stretch kind of idea. In fact, very similar, really. It's just a different way of achieving it. So I'm going to just, what I don't want to do is start clipping the curves off, because that is just losing data if I do that. But we're just going to sort of, I might even bring another curve up and see what I can do. Yeah. So, say I wanted to do that. I might think I've got a little bit too much green here. Just going to apply that, reset. I just want to try and get a bit more blue into that area, really. So maybe there. Yes, I'm going to go for that. I'll click that one more and I'll reset. Obviously, this all comes down to individual taste, so you probably might want to do something different. But I'm just really trying to give you some idea about how you might go about it. Now I'm just going to try another little S curve. This is just to give me a little bit of brightness and contrast. So by pulling down the bottom half of the curve, I'm sort of darkening it, but also increasing the contrast. So what I don't want to do is to over brighten it and blow it out. So we have to be a little bit careful. Maybe we go with that. Maybe we go with that, and we'll just go back to the full screen view a minute. Just see what we've got. Okay, well, I'm going to go with that, but I think that's kind of showing you how to use these masks. Let's just close this down. Now, if you ever want to just have a look at the image without removing the mask, by the way, you can just click here, show mask. If you click that, it will hide the mask. And when you're finished with the mask, you can just remove the mask and that's gone. Also, we can just right click on the preview and delete that as well if we want to get rid of it. We'll just zoom in, have a quick look, see how it's looking. Okay. So we've got rid of a lot of the kind of green element of the noise. We've got rid of a lot of the mucky brown. We've made it certainly more traditional, conventional pink. We've kind of put like a little bit of a narrowband feel by putting a little bit of blue in there, but all in all, I think it's quite a big change from the original image so far. Right, next thing we're going to do is to crop the image down. Of course, I certainly don't want it that big. Okay, now the one thing we've got to bear in mind here is, of course, that the the stars are separated at the moment, so I really need to crop the stars as well. So actually, although I could do it later if I forgot to do it now, the ideal way of doing it is just to open up the stars. Once you've got your crop all set, then you just drag the little triangle on the dynamic crop window. You just drag it onto the stars, and that will crop the stars to exactly the same proportions as we're going to now crop the main image to. We'll just put that back out the way, then we click the green tick, and that's it, and that's now cropped. We'll just go to zoom to fit again, and that's where we are so far. So that's looking pretty good, I think. So next thing we're going to do is to work on the stars, and we'll zoom that to fit as well. But just before we do that, at the moment you can see the green line here is showing me the stars are still in a linear state. We haven't stretched them yet. So we'll get the histogram transformation window open again, and we'll click on the header of the stars window, drag the triangle to there, drag the triangle to there, click reset. Now we'll get rid of that. So that's now stretched. I think the next thing we're going to do is to maybe try and give these a little bit of colour. So we'll use the curves a minute. Where are they? Curves, there they are. Use the curves. We'll go to the saturation curve, open up the real-time preview, and now we're going to give a little bit of an uplift to the saturation, so that's given the stars a bit of colour. We'll leave it at that for a minute. Apply that, reset. Now the stars are looking a bit on the green side, I'm afraid, so I think we probably need to take the green channel down a little bit. Yeah, there you are. I think that's a little bit better, so we'll leave it at that. Just apply that. You can reset it. By the way, you don't have to reset. You don't have to reset this when you've finished doing stuff. Just closing the window will actually automatically reset it, so you don't have to do that. Effectively, what happens until you click that button, you're not gonna, whatever is in the preview, until you click the apply button, it's not going to be applied to the underlying image anyway. So you can at any time just close these windows and the underlying window will stay in the previous state. Right, next thing I'm going to do is just to change the identifier on this, just for simplicity, to stars. There we go. Then I'm going to move on to a script by Bill Blanchard called Screen Stars. I'll put a link for these scripts in the description. Okay, so we select BG where we've already got that selected, and now we need to find stars. We put them together, and you know, that's what we're going to end up with. Now, okay, so I think I'm going to just try to just desaturate this a little. Go back to saturation, and then just drop the curve down a little bit. Okay. Then we'll go back to that script again. Now the main problem we do have is this, is these horrible stars, really. Okay, well, I'm going to try something here. And I haven't experimented with this, so not sure if it's going to work, but we're going to give it a go. So I'm going to remove those, or try and remove those with Star Exterminator. So let's see what we can do. Okay, so first problem we've got is they're a bit of a horrible shape, but we're going to try and fix them. Okay, so let's try deconvolution, and I'm going to use this to try and correct the sort of egg shape that we have with these stars. Now, deconvolution is a more traditional tool that is used for reducing stars. It can also be used actually for sharpening. So it's not just useful on stars. We can use it also on other details. But we're going to use it for the stars today. And specifically, we're going to use the second option here, which is called Motion Blur PSF. And this is specifically designed to try and correct misshapen, sort of elongated stars. And the way it works, there are two kind of things that we have to match here. So if we look at this star here, for example, which is, very elongated, what we're going to try and do is to match the length and the angle of this elongation. So I'll show you what I mean. If I just adjust the angle slider, you can see now that I'm kind of creating this pixelated view, which is kind of supposed to represent the star, really. I'm just going to increase the length. This is the length in pixels. It'll become a bit clearer. So what I'm trying to do is to match the angle of this here, which is basically almost vertical, but just slightly leaning to the left, isn't it? So I'm just going to try and match that angle with this tool. So we might say it's about there, for example. Next thing I need to do is to kind of work out what the length of the star is. In this case, the longest axis is obviously is the vertical one, so from top to bottom. So if you look down at the status bar in the bottom, you can see the cursor is giving me a readout, and it's giving me a readout in pixels at the moment for the position of this object. So the bottom of it is at a roughly 912 pixels at the moment. If I go to the top of it, it's at about 882, so that's about 30 pixels. So that tells us really that the length of this star that we're trying to correct is roughly 30 pixels. So I need to set this to something like that. Sometimes I might go a little bit more. I mean, it's a bit trial and error from here on. I'm just trying to get a starting value for this, really. So we put it to 30 pixels, and then we try and make sure that the angle of this, the tilt, if you like, off of the vertical, is the same as the tilt off of the vertical of this line here. And then I'm going to leave everything else the same, and I'm just going to press the apply button, and we'll see what happens. Now, actually that's not bad, but I feel it's probably squashed them slightly, so I'm just going to undo that. And I'm going to just go a little bit more, and we'll see what we get. Maybe 30, 35, say. 35, that's good. So there we go. I think that's looking pretty good. They're all looking quite round. If I really wanted to be sort of very finicky about this, I could apply this multiple times with different lengths to correspond to the different sizes of stars. But I think what we've got there is probably a pretty good compromise. Anyway, that gives you an idea what the deconvolution tool is for. I'll probably come back to this tool in more detail in another video. It certainly deserves more time to be spent on it, but that's just to give you a little introduction to it anyway. Next thing I need to do is to put this all back together, but first of all, I think we need to look at the colours. So again, we'll open up curves and just going to see, I'm just going to go to the RGBK channel and just see what colour these are. Sort of purple, isn't it, really? So yeah. So we make them all blue. Apply that. Reset. Then we need to desaturate them. One more. Reset. And we want to brighten them up a bit. Apply that. Reset. Maybe add a bit more blue in. Okay, so that's that, and I think I'm going to leave it at that. Okay, so I did go away and see if there was something else I could do to try and fix this problem with the stars, because this feels like quite a fudge really, but at the moment, well, we do seem to have extracted all the stars from the background pretty much. We've got now 2 files with stars on. So I'm going to put them back together with the screen star script. So the starless view is stars in this case, and the stars view will be background stars because we're just using this in a way it wasn't supposed to be used, but hey ho. So yeah, that looks to have worked quite well. So we've put both of those files together and made one file out of them now. So I'm just going to save that, and that will create me a new copy of Starry. We'll just call this new stars, shall we? New underscore stars. Okay, and just so I don't get confused now, I'm going to just put these out the way. Lovely. And now we're going to try and put both images together, again using screen stars. Only this time we're going to make the background, so the starless view will be the background, and this will be new stars. Not entirely sure about it, because, and I'll tell you why now, these other stars we've added in are not looking quite the same, are they? They're looking a little bit too sharp. Now, yes, they do look a little bit sharp. So let's get rid of that. So background stars. I'm going to have to convolute them, I think. So this is where we get another process called convolution. And we can just preview what we're going to do. And now that's what they're looking like now. I think that might be good. Let's just have a look at the stars to see if they're going to look okay. Is that too much, maybe? I think it is. I think that's probably about right. So we'll apply that to that. There we go. That's lovely. And what I'm now going to do is just brighten them back up a bit because they've gone a bit dull now I've done that. Go with that. Script, utilities, screen stars. And I think we'll go with that. So I've got Starry, we'll leave that at Starry, I think that's fine. Screen stars again, this time we're going to put BG in. And Starry. I still think the stars are all looking a bit sort of bloaty to me at the moment, so we will just work on our files. So this one, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the histogram transformation window, point it at this file, Starry, and I'm going to just start pushing the mid slider down. And as I do that, you'll see it's de-bloating the stars, but also dimming them. We'll get them to a point we're happy with, maybe around about there. Apply that. Then we go back into the scripts, we go into utilities, we go into screen stars, and then we go background and Starry. And that's what we've got. And I think that probably looks pretty good, so I'm going to accept that. Close that window. I think it's the wrong way around for my way of looking at it, so I'm going to just rotate it by 180 degrees and maybe do a little bit of final work on it. Let's just do a little preview on that area. Okay, so that's what we've got. Yes, we could certainly do a little bit of tweaking. Okay, we don't want to blow that center out, so if we want to lighten the background, we move further down, you see, like here. But what we might want to do is just do the mids a little bit like that, so that we can just maybe a little touch like that, improve the contrast slightly. Let's have a look at that in the full screen view. Yep. I think I'd go with that. That looks pretty good to me. And now I think I'm going to just get rid of this preview, and I think I'm going to just crop it a bit more. Because, you know, you really want to focus. The important thing is, okay, yeah, we want to try and keep the wings in, I suppose. But this is really about the pillars. That's what most people are interested in. So let's try with that. Okay. Now, So it's looking pretty nice, but it's pretty small, isn't it? So, and the stars are a bit blurry. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give it a quick resample. So we go to the resample process. I'm going to give it 400%. Just execute that. And now that has basically resampled and smoothed out all the edges on the stars. It's made the image 4 times bigger. If I just set that again now, there you are. And now we've got quite a nice, decent sized image. All looking pretty nice. Now, you know, we've got to that point where you could potentially think, shall I run another pass of Blur Exterminator or Noise Exterminator? I'll tell you what, we'll try it. Now, before anybody tells me, I know you're not actually supposed to run Blur Exterminator, not the newer version, on a non-linear image, but hey ho, let's see what happens. I'm not going to go too mad anyway. I'll take it down to about halfway on the stars and just see what it looks like. I suspect it will be horrible and it will look a mess, but it's interesting to try. Yeah, and you can see it's kind of almost like posterized the middle, where it's made all the gradation very harsh. It's introduced a lot of noise, lots of artifacts. Just not nice, is it really? So I think we'll go back on that one. So we'll close that down. Now, noise, do we need to deal with any more noise? Another pass with Noise Exterminator might actually be a better bet for this, because it also does do a little bit of sharpening. So we'll try that. I'm going to bring the detail slider up to about halfway. In fact, both sliders, the denoise slider to about halfway. We'll just apply that, see what happens. And we'll just see if that really made any difference. Very subtly, yes, but not. I mean, I might just try it a little bit higher up, just to see what happens. But I'm very quick to undo these things if they don't really offer a clear benefit. That's quite good, actually. Now let's see how much. The problem with it is how much did it blur the detail. Not at all, really. So that's actually quite good. But it's certainly just knocked that noise back a little bit more, so I think that's worthwhile, so we're going to leave that. Just resize the window, so that's looking quite nice. There are other things you can do if you do just want to sharpen things up a bit. We could also use something like multiscale linear transform. It's more of a kind of a wavelet kind of idea that you may have encountered in other programs such as Registax. It also has noise reduction, which can be applied to each individual layer if you want, so that can be quite helpful. But yes, it is just kind of a wavelet system, and you can add more layers, so you can get into some real very kind of precise sharpening using this. But it does take a bit of practice. And to be quite honest, the AI tools have made it a little bit redundant, but it still has its place. So try and see if that's improved it. Yeah, I actually think that's made it a little bit better, so I'm going to leave that. I quite like that. Yeah, okay, I'm not going to mess about with it too much more, really, because I think I'd be just messing for messing's sake, really. Anyway, I think that's about it, really. I've gone through a few strategies, shown you a few tools you may not have seen before, and shown you a few techniques you may not have seen before. I think when you're dealing with images that are inherently quite noisy, everyone will have its own challenges. So certainly when you're dealing with stuff that doesn't have nebulosity, so if you're dealing with galaxies and that kind of thing, actually they're simpler to deal with, and you can still use a luminance mask, and that actually is still a really good way of knocking back noise in the background. But you will find other parts of the process that I've just gone through you may not need. Anyway, that's about it for this video. I hope you find it useful, and if you do, then perhaps you'll consider subscribing. It'd be great to have you aboard. If you've got any questions or suggestions, then please drop them in the comments below. I hope to see you again soon, and bye for now.